Welcome to the Working Moms of San Antonio podcast. We're your hosts, Erika, Radis, and Marie Lifschultz, a realtor and lender here in San Antonio, but most importantly, we're working moms just like you.
This podcast is all about creating a space where we can come together, share stories, and learn from each other. We love connecting with local moms in business, hearing about their journeys, and how they're balancing it all. Because let's be honest, it's not always easy, but it's so worth it.
Before we dive into today's episode, we're excited to share some big news with you all.
Our business community and co-working memberships are officially open. Whether you're looking for a supportive community of moms in business or need a beautiful space to work and grow, we've got just what you need here at Working Moms of San Antonio. You can visit the link in our show notes or workingmomsofsanantonio.com/membership for more info.
Now, on to today's episode. Grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let's get started.
Welcome to this week's episode of the Working Moms of San Antonio podcast. We are here with our guest, Hope. She owns a business called Hopeful and Wholesome Wellness. And I'm going to turn it over to her because she has so many things that she could share with us today.
So I'm a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, which I know is a mouthful. Essentially means I use functional labs to help people get to the root cause of chronic symptoms. And in addition to that, I incorporate a lot of different modalities into the work that I do. I'm helping women, predominantly women, put together the holistic, and I hesitate using that word. I feel like it's an overused word, but it really is putting together the holistic equation. So I'm helping them mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, putting all those pieces together so they can really thrive in their business and in their life. And then in addition to that, I also have a brick and mortar Pilates and wellness studio here with a couple locations in San Antonio. And Pilates is my first love. This year I think will be like 20 or 21 years teaching. And so that's kind of where I got my start in kind of getting into like the wellness space was Pilates. So that's what I do.
It's very elegant. I love Pilates. Yeah. I saw a meme on Instagram not too long about these bodybuilders. Like, is this really hard? Yeah. And they're in there trying to do Pilates and they're like, this is hard. Like they just could not stretch. It was so funny.
It's tricky. Yeah. It's sneaky. It's sneaky because it does like we always say that like people looking on the outside looking in are like, what are they? They're not even doing anything, but it's sneaky.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's interesting that you mentioned the holistic part of it and like being apprehensive to say that. I have seen even like financial people say that. Yeah. And I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And so what does that mean for you? What does that mean?
No, it is a good question. And to your point, I mean, because I do think that word is just so overplayed and overused and it just kind of gets a little convoluted because then we're like, oh, what does it even mean anymore? And for me, and sometimes when I'm like writing content, I'll spell it like WHOLE, like holistic, because for me, that's what it is. And it's putting the whole body together. So like in the work I do in my online business and Hopeful and Wholesome, for me, I started out, I'll say it this way. This has been kind of the evolution of my journey as a health practitioner. I started out just doing basic nutrition coaching. And I did that at my studio because I wanted my studio to be this one-stop shop where you can get everything in one place. And so I just did basic nutrition coaching. Like I'll just give you some support, accountability. And the more women I worked with, the more I was recognizing these things the women are coming to me for. Like they're like, oh, I want to drop 10 pounds or I want to drop 20 pounds, whatever. Like that's fine and all, but they really require deeper conversations than talking about calories or macros.
Right.
And so for me, that was kind of when it clicked in my head, like, okay, there's more to this than just the physical part, right? Yes. So that drove me into pursuing my certification as a functional practitioner and being able to do the labs and all that. And then kind of alongside my own personal growth journey, I'm recognizing like, yes, this is great to getting to the root cause of the physical symptoms, but there's still more to that because now I'm working with these women, these, high achieving women, and I'm seeing most of the women I work with, they've been to other practitioners before. They've been to other functional practitioners or, maybe it's conventional medical doctor, whatever. But either their symptoms keep coming back or some symptoms keep coming back and maybe they show up in a different way. So there's a reason for this. And so for me, I wanted to dive into why do these things coming back? And it goes back to, I am of the belief that everything physical that's showing up on our body has this energetic emotional root cause. So there are patterns that are playing out in the subconscious that are perpetuating these physical things that are showing up in the body. So that's, for me, holistic. Going back to your original question, holistic is putting all of these pieces together, because we're not just a physical being.
Yeah.
We have a mental body, an emotional body, a spiritual body, and it's really all of that is what encompasses our well-being. And so if we're separating that, we're really not addressing us. Like we're missing out on pieces.
Well, I think a lot of times medical doctors want to fix this issue with one and not diving deep into other things, like what's causing it.
Yeah.
Like it's always external versus looking internal.
And I think the intention is good, because I think you come in with a symptom and sometimes it can be debilitating, or sometimes it can really be affecting your day-to-day life. And so a lot of times I think doctors are like, I can get this to be better for you. And it's like, cool. And that's great. And we need that.
Right.
But we need to know why it's happening.
Right.
And we need to know how to stop it from continuing to happen. And I think that's the kind of disconnect with the more modern traditional medicine.
Agree.
Yeah.
Definitely agree
Yeah,
that.
for sure. Yeah. And that's really, I mean, it's, you know, and I say this because I don't want it to be like, oh, let's bash Western medical, whatever, because we need doctors, but they're trained in medicine and surgery. Like that's just what they're trained in. Yeah. So it's not about, let's find out, like dig deep to why it's happening. It's just really, it's not what their training is really.
Sure.
And so, yeah, I do think that that's like, if you're really wanting to create wellness and wholeness in the body, we have to get to the why. And so it's, yes, I want to know what's going on in your physical body. But then for me, I also want to know what's going on in your emotional, energetic body to tell me why these things are showing up in your physical body.
And we're so often hearing like stress plays such a huge role, right? Stress, and we hear it all the time. I hear it. Stress can affect you physically, totally, right? But I don't know why, and I don't know how, and I don't know how to stop it.
Right.
You know, or people are like, regular doctors will often be like, what's your stress level? I'm like, 1 million.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean?
I got a lot of it.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's like so much. It's overflowing. That's
Right.
literally all I have. So like when they say that, like they want to kind of know. And
Yes.
so then there's like a little bit of a correlation. So now I know,
Yes.
hey, my stress is affecting me physically, but it's never like, no one's telling me how to stop
How
that.
to manage it.
No
yeah.
one's really telling me, like, I guess
They
I'm
just
the
said,
kind of
"Don't
person.
be stressful."
Yeah,
Well,
I'm
how
the
do
kind of
you do
person
that,
that needs like a
right?
little bit of science behind it. Like, why is this
Yes.
happening?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so when I don't get that information, then all I think about is how stressed I am and how I know this is making me sicker. And then I get more stressed about it.
Yeah.
It's like a weird cycle.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, and I think that's a big like missing piece of the conventional like allopathic cares, because maybe they'll ask you about your stress levels, but then that's it. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, don't be stressed. Like, okay, like
Yeah.
that's super helpful. Okay,
Yeah.
I just won't be stressed. And then there's no like strategy or like, okay, now what do I do about my stress level, and how do I manage it? And that's for me the big piece. And so I incorporate things. So the work I do, I incorporate things like hypnotherapy. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. I incorporate things like NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, which is basically like rewiring your brain. And that's really the piece. It's like, okay, let's get into the subconscious mind to figure out, why are you so stressed? Like I just did a 5-part series on my podcast about how we as women tie our worth to our productivity and our output.
We do.
Absolutely.
And how that affects our physical health, and the layers of repercussions of just that programming. That's one piece of programming that so many of us as women have, connecting our worth to our productivity, our output, what we're doing. And that causes so much stress internally on our bodies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, how do we not do
Well, I
that?
wonder-
How do you not worry?
I wonder if it was always like that. And I don't know if it's more of a product of now that like more women are working and like
Right.
doing those kind of things. I almost feel like, and this is me just like overanalyzing as I do, but I almost feel like it may be that like subconsciously we are like, hey, it took us so long to even get what we have in terms of like what we're worth and you know, job wise and that
Right.
kind of stuff,
Right.
that I feel like we're like, hey, it took us so long to get here. And so now we have to really make sure that we
Yeah.
kill it, you know?
Yeah.
And so, which is so obnoxious. That's such an obnoxious way to think and be. But I think that's kind of where we're at. And
Yeah.
so to your point, I don't know how
do
to
you not worry?
how to not
Yeah.
do that.
I'm always worried.
Yeah.
Like I'm always worried about tomorrow. I'm always worried about, did I make the right decision yesterday? We have other people that we have to worry about
Right.
because they
That's
don't
right.
worry about
Sure.
themselves.
Sure.
You know, our husbands and our children. You know, we worry for them.
Yeah.
And I went to the doctor yesterday, and I'm 45. So there's things that are changing. I'm like, I don't know why I've gained weight in the last year. Like, I don't know what's going on. He's like, oh, well, just how about the shot? I'm like, I don't want a shot. Like, I want to figure out what's causing it. I haven't changed anything. Sleep, stress, that kind of stuff. How do I fix those things? And they just want to give you a shot. And I'm like, I'm sure that will help, but it won't fix it. Like, I don't want to be in a shot forever.
Right. You still want to know the why. Yeah, it is hard to get out of that pattern. And I think that is a good point. I think it's where and there's layers to this. Like in this series, I talk about like the layers of this, because a lot of this is programming and a lot of this is generational. I mean, for generations, this is like a whole rabbit hole that we don't have to go down, but for generations, this is how we've been perceived. And like one of the episodes I talk about like women's role for generations as the caretaker and the nurturer. So their only value was doing. Yes. That was the only thing they had. They weren't allowed to own property. They weren't allowed to do anything. But this is a generational thing that requires so much untangling. And I think that's the other piece with the holistic work that I do. I think studies show that like you hold like up to 7 generations of trauma in your body. Oh, yikes. And I really think it's more than that. Yeah. So when we're born, like we as women are literally born with this. Like, and yes, a lot of it is with, cultural and societal conditioning, but we're born with these things that we have to, it's just part of our existence of kind of untangling and rewiring some of these things that we're born with, and being able to understand and own our own inherent value and not tie our productivity and our worth, and being so worried about the doing and the, it's hard. And it is hard because you're right. We do have people that we have to take care of, and we have kids or partners or spouses or whatever, businesses, but they're still at the core of it. Like those things and taking care of those things are still not what your value is attached to. It's still you as a human, like having inherent value. And that's a hard thing to rewire. It's a challenge.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard being a woman.
It is.
So when someone comes to you, I just want our listeners to kind of get an idea of like how all of this works. So when someone comes to you and like they've got some kind of an issue going on, like what are your first steps? What does that initial conversation look like?
Yeah. So the initial conversation is really like, let's just talk about what's going on in your body. Like tell me physically what's going on. Tell me about what your life is like, your lifestyle is like. And similar question, the doctor's like, what's your stress level like? But I want to know like what are your sources of stress? So then I can have a better understanding of where the stress is coming from. From there, my protocol kind of goes into all of those areas of wellness that we're talking about. So I'm going to look at the physical parts. I want to do the labs and look at, let's not guess and wonder like, oh, my blood pressure is high, or it's let's not guess. We don't have to guess and wonder. I want to look at the labs. I have empirical data. This is exactly what's going on in your body. From there is where I want to tie in all the other pieces. So human design is one tool that I use, which is essentially your energetic blueprint. It's how your energy is designed to move through your body, how you're here to interact with other people and the world around you. And I like to tie this to the physical piece, because if I can look at your energetic blueprint, then I can say, okay, your labs are showing that your hormones are doing this, your gut is doing this, and your adrenals are doing this. Well, then I can look at your energetic blueprint and see, okay, these specific patterns are the reason that your physical body is doing these things. So I can kind of put the puzzle pieces together. Then we can do kind of the rewiring process. And so we can see, okay, where are the patterns? Is it an overworking or a proving pattern? Is it I have to, like I was saying, do I have to work to prove my worth? Is it a fear of abandonment issue? Is it I need to be seen? Like what are the patterns? And then we can go into the kind of the subconscious work that I do with, if it's the NLP or the hypnosis, whatever. And then we start to rewire, reprogram. And that's really when I say holistic, that's the whole equation. We putting the physical with the mental, emotional, spiritual, putting all of those pieces together.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody does that. I've never heard of anyone talking about all the, in this sense, the 4 parts of putting it all together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because it does matter. I mean, like when you're looking at your physical body, that's one thing. And then obviously your mental state, how does that play into, I mean, I feel like I've been super stressed for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Like it just has not stopped. Yeah. Either my business was doing great and there was so much business I just couldn't keep up. And then one day it turned off, and now you're worried about not having business and just trying to get it. Right, for the last 5 years. So it's been very stressful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like we don't hear about these types of like different avenues by which you can go. And I feel like if I would go out into the world and say that, someone would be like, get your tinfoil hat.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you, and that's a great. And I was doing a podcast interview a couple weeks ago, and he said that, like, what do you say to the people who are skeptical? Like, if you're a skeptic, then it's not for you.
Totally.
Like, you have to have an open mind going into doing something that might sound woo or out there, whatever. You have to have an open mind to go into it and want to try something different.
Nothing else is working. Why not?
Totally. That's my philosophy. You haven't found anything so far. Like, what harm is it going to do?
Yeah. I bet that's a ton of your clients. I bet a ton of your clients, like me, have tried every single thing and gone to I have rheumatoid arthritis, and I went to my rheumatologist, and I have something where like my joints are like hyper flexible. It's just like, it's genetic. My aunt has it. Everybody has it. And so I went there and they were like, your joints do this and it's like causing some problems with your arthritis. It's like making it worse. And I was like, oh no, like, what do I do?
Right.
And he was like, just don't do that. Like, don't extend your limbs as far. And I was like, I'm not doing this on purpose. I've never done this. I didn't even know it was a thing. And so like when I say I feel like I've tried everything and like had every like erroneous conversation, it has been everything.
Yeah.
And so I can only imagine that a lot of your clients are exactly like that.
Yeah.
And so they come to you and they're like, Hope, what else?
Yeah, right. What else can I do?
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Well, I know in the class that you gave us not too long ago, you talked about the different types of labs that you do. And I don't know if anyone doing the types of labs I'm a data person.
Yeah.
If I can see the data, I can make something work. Like, and no one, I mean, yes, they draw blood and you're within a normal range, which they did yesterday. Pulled blood, I'm within a normal range. I'm like, but it's not normal. Like, maybe it's not normal for me. Like,
right. I don't feel normal.
When I look at people's financial situations, everybody's different. I can't say this is normal because there's no normal.
Right.
So how
it's all subjective.
I'm assuming. So I love the fact that you have these extensive tests that you're able to do and have that data to make an educated decision on something.
Yeah. And I do get a lot of people like that too, who they're analytical minds at work here, right? So I do get a lot of analytical minds, especially I've worked with plenty of men before. It's like my clients' husbands or brothers, or I've worked with men, and men are very, like, they were like, I need to see the data. So they're very analytical, and we get the analytical data, but I think that is helpful too, because we can do the labs and see what's going on. Then we can, do all the things and do all the work. Then we can run the labs again. And it's like, okay, if you need proof, here's the proof. Your labs are moving in a different direction. So the data is important. It is important.
Let's talk about some of the labs that you do run, because I do feel like what you're doing, like Marie mentioned, is different than what we may get just from a typical doctor.
Yeah. So I run functional labs, and I have three foundational labs. I said three foundational labs that I run. And I like to be able to collect a good amount of data so that it's not just looking at one lab and being like, okay, here's the problem. I need to be able to connect dots. So the three foundational labs I run, the first one I do is a hair tissue and mineral analysis, which is literally sending in some of your hair. So it's a hair analysis, and it's measuring a couple dozen different minerals, heavy metals, toxic elements, and it's looking at the relationships between the minerals. And this is one that I really love the most. I talked about this a lot in the workshop that I did. I love this one the most because it's a really inexpensive lab, and it provides a whole lot, just a ton of data. And so just the minerals alone, well, the other piece is just the importance of minerals in general. Minerals are considered the spark plugs in the body, meaning that everything in the body, every reaction that's happening, it starts with the minerals. So whether it's the minerals are the catalyst or the cofactor, they're involved in some way.
Well, they're taking a lot of the minerals that naturally you would have gotten
in your food. Right.
They're taking it out. So we don't get them anymore.
Right. That's another thing. It's stress. Of course, stress is going to deplete our minerals, but then it's our, the conventional ways we're getting our food. It's the soil is depleted, right? That's just a fact. And so there are holes. There are a lot of gaps. And if there are already gaps in our nutritional source, and then we live in the Western world, so 99% of us are stressed out all the time, then of course we're going to have imbalances and depletions and all that. So the minerals are a big piece. The second lab that I run is a Dutch test, which is a really comprehensive hormone test. And it's, yes, you can go to your doctors and get a blood lab, but it's a dried urine test. You just pee on some paper. It's really easy to do, but it's going to give a much deeper look and a much more comprehensive look at your hormones, how they're interacting with each other, how they're being converted in your body, how they're being cleared from your body, your cortisol pattern, how your cortisol is moving through your body, how it's being cleared. So it's just a bigger look at your sex and steroid hormones. And then the third lab that I do is a GI map, which is a poop test. And it's a really comprehensive look at your gut. So with all of these, I can start to connect dots because we can see, okay, well, these things are on this lab and these things correlate with these. So we can start to connect dots and kind of put the puzzle together. I love puzzles. So this is, I think, everything where I love the labs. So we're putting the puzzle pieces together to try to have your symptoms, what you're experiencing in your body. And then let's, find the correlations with the lab work.
I think it's important because I don't think anybody, I obviously do blood tests, but that I didn't realize until we went to your workshop that it talked, that's only like a snapshot in time.
Right.
It's not over a long period of time.
Right.
Obviously with the hair and the other type of test that you do, you can see overall versus just at that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's one of the biggest benefits of doing labs like these is because yes, and I'm not opposed, like totally anti-blood labs. I'll look at my clients' blood work, but I'm never going to only look at their blood work. Like they'll go to their doctor and get their blood lab because insurance will pay for it. So that's always a plus. And then I can put that together with the other labs I'm looking at because you're right. I could do the same lab tomorrow and it could say something different. And it's just not giving you a good, and it's only one lab. It's only one lab. And like for the minerals, for example, it's such a different look at your, because you can get your minerals tested through a blood lab and most doctors will, but it's going to be a totally different picture. And it's not to get too sciencey here, but when you're looking at minerals, a lot of minerals are intracellular, meaning they're supposed to be in your cells. Yes. When you're looking at blood, it's not giving you it's not what's going on in your cells. It's not what's happening at a cellular level. So it's really not giving you the accurate picture that you want of how the minerals are interacting in your body. So yes, I think it does make a big difference.
Do you feel like the depletion of minerals that we have now also is like affected by the water that we drink? I watched this documentary, and I don't know if it's real or not, but I watch every documentary that ever exists. And so it was something about how, like, because of the way that we filter everything out, like you should almost be drinking like natural spring water and stuff, which of course is more expensive for some reason.
Yeah.
Even though they're doing less to it.
Natural, it's out of the,
but that's, the documentary is basically saying like, the natural springs like have all these minerals in them and those things are good for your body. Yep. But because we like hyper filtrate our water, we're not getting those things
totally anymore. Yeah. And it's such a slippery slope with the water because it's like you want your water to be filtered because you don't want all the crap that's in it, the chemicals and all that. But then it's like, well, you're also stripping away the minerals that are in it. Yeah. So it is a tricky, and I do think that could definitely be, an aspect that contributes, because it's just like our food too, right? I mean, it's the same thing. So I definitely think that could play a part in it. Everything is processed. And again, it's kind of like with the water, it's like, well, I also don't want this crap in it. So that's a tough thing. And unless you're getting the mineral water, but the natural is always best, right? It's like have a conversation about salt all the time with my clients. I have a whole podcast episode about salt, but it's the same with salt. It's like, okay, table salt and sea salt are two different things. Table salt has been stripped of every mineral and every nutrient, and it's just the sodium chloride. If you have the sea salt, then you have all the minerals. Like nature gives us what we need, but then we just kind of mess things up, and then it gets all stripped away.
Getting more stressed.
Yeah.
Getting more stressed out.
Don't get stressed. We can replenish these.
Well, there's so much. I mean, I think with the new wave of stuff, right? I think we're just being more aware.
Yeah.
I mean, growing up, I mean, we didn't eat a lot of processed food, but I felt like it's probably more prominent. My kids don't. They don't eat any of that. They never have, and it wasn't something I tried to do, but I realized that it was something that wasn't good. Like if something, like I remember milk used to go bad, bread used to go bad, and then I'm like, we've had this bread in this drawer for a
Nothing's
month.
happening.
Why isn't it moldy? And I started really thinking about it. Like
there it is, looking back at you.
I was like, what is happening? But then I remember taking a class, and I remember what this professor said. She said, if it goes bad, it's good for you.
Yeah.
Let it go. And I'm like,
that's true.
Nothing goes bad anymore. Like things last a lot longer. I'm like, why is that? Like, wait a minute. What's in it? And then I started reading labels. I'm like, what are all the things I can't say? Like, what? It should just be creamer. Like, what is this?
Yeah. I laugh because at the back of like my container of almonds, it'll say like contains almonds.
Like, yes,
but that's what you want.
It's what you want the almond.
Yeah, you don't need other things in there. I would love to touch on just really quickly. I know that you deal with a lot of people in business and that kind of thing. And just briefly on our workshop, you had touched on the fact that there are certain things as women that we can do, during different times of our cycle that may actually benefit our business. And I find that part so interesting.
Yeah. This is a big piece for me. And a big piece of kind of that like energetic, emotional piece for when I'm working with clients is that it's like tying to your natural hormonal cycle. It's tying to your energy cycles through human design. And so with your menstrual cycle, like this is, really, I think this is a woman's superpower, is being able to understand and utilize this. It's the whole adage of working smarter, not harder. Like this is it. This is how you do that as a woman. And it's understanding your hormonal cycle, your menstrual cycle, understanding your mood and your energy fluctuations within each phase of your cycle, and being able to use that to optimize your energy, your productivity, your creativity, and knowing, when do I need to slow down? When can I push more? And that's really how we hold on to our energy, is this smarter, not harder thing. So I'm not forcing something to happen in a part of my cycle where your body's like, no, stop. I don't want to do this right now.
That makes sense. I think they don't teach you that.
No.
When you learn about your cycle, and people are like, it's a bad thing. And I'm like, I'm glad I still have one. Like, no, I want it to go as long as I can. It's your, someone told me it's your fountain of youth. Like for a female or for a woman, that's how you stay. That's what your body's supposed to be doing.
Right.
And but until you explain the different, I guess, seasons or in them, I was like, oh, that's right. Maybe this is the week that we're kind of off because there's a reason.
Yeah, let's talk about the different seasons.
Yeah, I can go through them. So basically, I like to, is what I explained in the workshop, I like to use the seasons to explain the phases. It's just easier to grasp and understand in your mind. And so if you think of the 4 seasons, every phase of your cycle corresponds with that. So the menstrual phase of your cycle would be winter. So this is, and you think about winter, like what does nature do in the winter? Like it goes inward, it hibernates, it gets cozy, and it rests. And that's really what we're designed to do during our menstrual phase. And so during your menstrual phase, you are designed to slow down and rest. Your creative brain kind of shuts down, and maybe you've noticed this before, like it's a little foggy. Like for me, I always feel like it's like a static. So it's like, it's a little foggy, staticky. So we're not designed to be super creative at this time, because it's our time to go inward. And I explained this in the workshop, but I love this part of it. But essentially the right and left hemispheres of your brain are talking to each other more clearly during this phase of your cycle. So your intuition is stronger. Like this is the time for you to really reflect. And I have my clients, like, if you're not big on journaling, journal during this phase of your cycle. Like see what comes up, what intuitive hits do you get, like what divine downloads come to you during this phase of your cycle. But use it to reflect and kind of prepare for the next season, because we know the next season is spring. Spring is when we're going into our ovulation phase. And so it's like on the way there. So it's like the latter part of your follicular cycle. So you feel your energy is coming back, right? Our hormones are kind of on the up and up. So we feel our creative brain kind of come back online. And so this is the time where I can be more productive. I can get things done. I'm kind of energized now, and I can act on these things that maybe I came up with during the winter phase of my cycle. So now I can act on them. And then from spring, you go to summer. Summer is ovulation, which ovulation technically is just a one-day event, but we feel the effects of it for longer than one day, because it's when your hormones are at their peak. And this is the time where we're feeling outgoing and sociable. This is when, like, doing the networking and the interviews, and we're doing all the things to put ourselves out there, getting on camera. You're feeling really energized, so you want to maximize that time. And then from there, we would go into fall. So fall is your luteal phase, when our hormones kind of start to go down, right? Because we're getting ready for winter. We're getting ready for your menstrual cycle again, menstrual phase. So for the luteal phase, your hormones are in an interesting place where you still have some energy to get things done, but it's going to feel a little bit different. So for me, I explain to my clients, this is the time where this isn't really the time to be super creative, but it's a time to get stuff done, like check things off your to-do list. Like for me, it's admin. Admin tasks are what you do during your luteal phase. Can you do the things that don't require a whole lot of creative power and just things that I need to check off my list? So for me, I plan, like, I'm going to do my QuickBooks stuff during this phase. I'm going to, check the things off that's when I'm doing luteal phase. And it's a good time. If you think about fall, it's like, okay, we can start to clean out things, right? Preparing for winter. So this is the time to kind of reflect on what's serving me now and in my business, in my life, and what's not. This is a good time to do that. And then we start back over to winter. So if you can plan your month, okay, I'm resting in this phase, or I'm reflecting, I'm being intentional with my time. Like for me, I mentioned this in the workshop. I don't do interviews during that part of my cycle. I don't schedule interviews. I don't take, unless it's like a one-off thing, I don't do sales calls. I don't do that during that phase. That's the time where I'm going to slow down and I'm going to maximize that time and reflect. And maybe I'm doing some planning and, brainstorming, whatever. And then going into spring, and then using spring and summer to like, this is my get stuff done. I can get so much stuff done in that time, my cycle. Like I'm like an Energizer bunny. So like using that phase, and then using, okay, I'm not going to do, because I don't want to waste my creative power on doing admin tasks when I could wait and do that during my luteal phase. So I'm going to wait and do the things that I wanted to check these things off on to-do list, but I can save those for this week. So really it's just organizing your time and energy in a way that you are maximizing what's happening in that phase.
Yeah.
But I think it's understanding yourself. Like, I think most people don't know. They just kind of fly by the seat of their pants. They don't keep track of their cycle. They don't know what's going on. And I know there's a lot of apps, right? And you can kind of use them. And I realized when I was using one, when my husband and I decided we didn't want to have children anymore, that we needed to plan things better. So I started to learn a little bit about it, but there's a lot of ways to track, like, how do I feel today?
Yeah.
And I didn't understand, why was it asking that? Like, but if you go, and I went back after your class, I'm like, I kind of started answering the questions when I was tracking, and I'm like, oh, there's like, it's kind of similar in every single time when I did answer the questions. It was very similar. I was saying the same things, and had never paid attention to it. Yeah. Never.
I think that's a big thing. It's just the awareness, just understanding that part can be so empowering. Like, I actually understand how my body works now. And now I know how to, that's a big piece of it. Just the awareness.
Yeah. And so I think we want to mention coming up in May, you will be doing a workshop here at Working Moms of San Antonio, all about that, all about your cycle and business and how to sort of like make it work to your advantage.
Yeah. So tying in, my two favorite tools for women are understanding their energy are human design and your menstrual cycle. So, and human design can be such a powerful tool. Like it's changed my life. Understanding human design and understanding how your energy is designed to move and understanding your energetic blueprint. And there's so much to it. And so I think we'll break it up into a few parts, but there's so much to it. But this can change the trajectory of your business and change just how you feel doing business. 'Cause that's the other thing. It's one thing to have a successful business, but you feel like trash while you're doing it. It's another thing to actually enjoy it while you're doing it. And that's, for me, the power of understanding your human design and understanding your energetic blueprint, because now I can do things in a way that feel good, and I can feel good physically and mentally while I'm doing it. I can enjoy the journey. And really that's how we all start businesses. We want to make a difference. We want to have an impact. Yeah. And you can't do that if your body is like ripping at the seams. So I always tell my clients, your body.
Oh, you can't?
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. I tell my clients all the time, your business will only ever be as strong and healthy as your body. Like, your body is the vessel. You get one vessel, and your body is the vessel that is going to carry your mission forward to the collective. And that's how it's going to do that. And so if we are not prioritizing and being intentional with our energy and how we're using that in our business, then it's not sustainable. Like, you can go on the up and up for a little while, but eventually you're either going to hit a ceiling or a plateau, because your body's going to be like, I can't do this anymore. So this is like the holy grail for me. It's this, just understanding your human design, your energy, and using that in every aspect of your, because the other thing I love about it too, it can help you in your relationships. It can help you with your team. If you have a team, or if you have employees that work with you or you work with, it just understand those dynamics too, and understanding why people are doing this the way they do things. Why do I do the things the way I do things? So it really does just change all different aspects of your life.
I think people might think it's kind of hokey because of the wording. I think, like, when you like the energy, this and there's science behind it.
Oh yeah.
So it's not hokey.
Yeah.
Like, it really feels like, I think people just kind of, it's I don't know. My younger sister's really into her chakra, and and I don't understand the terminology. And at first I kind of put it to the side, but then I started listening to it. I'm like, hey, no, there's science behind this. Yeah. This makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, it really does have some validity. Like, and if you put it all together, like, it can make a difference.
Yeah.
Like, you can use all aspects of it, but I think it just, if it has nothing else's work, try this.
You might as well. The energy part, and you're right. The energy part, like the word energy can like make people feel a certain way. Like, especially we're talking about chakras. I don't know if you're familiar with Joe Dispenza, Dr. Joe Dispenza. I've read all of his books and I've been to workshop, but he talks about this, but he talks about energy centers because he feels like the word chakra can like polarize people. But he has done, like, if you want to know the science, go look up Dr. Joe Dispenza. He has done, I mean, it has to be thousands of studies at this point. Thousands and thousands of studies on people's energy, how it moves in the different energy centers on their bodies, and how like he's doing this specific type of meditation and breath work to help rewire people's brains. But there's studies about the energy flow. So there are like energy, when we talk about energy, like you can't dispute energy exists because it's scientifically proven. And there are studies that show how like we have an auric field, we have an energy field. Like there are studies that can measure your energy field. So I think people don't, it's like, because you can't see it. It's something that people don't understand because you can't see it. It doesn't exist. And we can't see our energy, but it's been measured and studied time after time. And so I think it's just, I do think the tides are changing a little bit. People are more receptive about talking about energy and, they're, that kind of thing, vibe, the energy, but it still can trip people up because it's not something we can see in front of us.
There's a lot of things you can't see.
Exactly.
Gravity you can't see. Yes. It's there.
Yes. We can feel it.
How often have you been like you walk into a room and you're there with somebody and they're kind of close to you or whatever, and you just feel yuck?
Yes.
Because they are yuck.
Yes.
They're feeling yuck.
You feel the energy right away.
Or the opposite. You walk in and like that person's like having the best time and you're like, oh shit, I'm having the best time.
There's people, I love being around that person. She has great energy.
Yes.
I love being, they pull me into their energy. So there's something
you can
there.
Feel
I don't know what it is, but there's something there.
You can feel it. You can feel it.
Because, we've talked about like, hey, there's people we love that when they come to our networking, they bring it and you feel it.
Yep. Yeah, I love that. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm really excited for that workshop.
Too, yeah.
I want to know all the things.
Yeah.
And this whole conversation has been so interesting, and I feel like I could talk forever and ever.
It
could. But I want you to have the opportunity to kind of share with our listeners how they can get a hold of you for all of these services.
Yeah. So you can check out my website. It's hopefulandwholesome.com. I'm most active on Instagram. It's at the Hope Pedraza. And then I also have a podcast with the same name, Hopeful and Wholesome, where if you just want to learn more about what I do and just connect, that's probably the best place to get started. It's all things health, wellness, inspiration, spirituality, all for high achieving women. So find me there.
That's awesome. And we'll put that in our show notes.
I'm excited about our workshop.
Yeah, same. And then I'm also going to thank our listeners for tuning in to this week's episode, and we will catch you guys next time. Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Working Moms of San Antonio podcast. We hope you loved today's chat and found a little inspiration to take with you into your week. If you have a podcast topic suggestion or a question you'd love for us to cover, definitely send us an email at hello@workingmomsofsanantonio.com. We'd love to hear from you. And until next time, see you in the community.